What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the 9x9. It is Tuesday, March 29th, 2022. This is episode 20. My name is Rob St. Clair. That's Everett DeLorme. You're tuning in live on Volleyball, source for the 81 square meters of the best volleyball coverage anywhere on the internet that you could ask for. And thanks for watching. We got a lot to get to this week. But first, curveball. We have a very special guest.
Let's go.
Mr. Dan Manili from FiveOne Volleyball. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey guys, it's great to see both of you, but I have one question before we start. What took so long? I mean, guys, come on.
Whoa.
That's
I've done dozens of podcasts with both of you, and
coming
this is
from
the
you,
first,
my man.
This is the first time.
You come back to Canada and pretend volleyball doesn't exist for a couple months, and now here you are.
now I'm back.
Summary of the timeline for those of you.
But thank you guys so much for having me on. I'm really looking forward to today's discussion because it's essentially like my favorite time of the year in volleyball, like Superliga playoffs start, like CAS playoffs we just had. There's so much to talk about today, guys. So thank you for bringing me on and giving me a chance here.
It's great to have you, Dan, as the man who kind of wrote the book on what it was like to do a weekly show that covered the volleyball world. We are honored to have you on. And to start us off, we will start with how we ended last week's show. Everett, we're leaning on you heavy on this one, my friend. The uSports Men's Volleyball Championships. Trinity Western loses to Alberta in the finals.
I don't know. Let's say Alberta beat Trinity Western.
Alberta,
in the
that's right? Well said. Like, Alberta beat.
I think that is very, very much the storyline here, right? And everyone's acting like, "Whoa, how did Trinity lose? How did the Spartans lose?" That's a damn good Alberta team on the other side of the net. Jordan Cannon was absolutely phenomenal for them all throughout the Canada West playoffs and throughout this championship. They're a well-coached team. They've got great guys on all sides of the balls. I mean, Isaac Heslinga, like up there, like him and our boy Philip Lautner, they had two like very good seasons, but Heslinga, like a key member on a championship team. Max Elgert was looking better than ever in the setting role. I think picking up Landon Curry from Thompson Rivers from a few years ago, he's with Libero. Like he might be up there with Justin Louis, you know, in my books is kind of the next guys up in Canadian volleyball. That was a damn good Alberta team that just came to play. Funnily enough, Rob, I think, you know, you brought it up last week about how Trinity doesn't play that traditional style and they don't have someone on the right side. They don't have a big banger out there. And I think it hurt them. It seemed like they were lacking options. They couldn't get the flow going. And let's say, I mean, I don't think they had their best game, but I think quite a bit of it was pressured by the way Alberta was playing and how strong they were. Plus, not to mention, let's like if you look at this picture, this graphic that we have up here, if you're watching the video, that guy in the hoodie right there, that's Braden Friesen coming out of Saskatchewan. That dude is a bona fide, like he could be playing for the national team one day, and he was injured throughout the entirety of the playoffs. So they had their backup setter, Cam Kern, playing on the left side, and head coach Brock Davidoff was calling him his volleyball player all throughout the Canada West playoffs because he can do everything. And the fact that they won a national championship with their backup setter and a first year on the left side, that's absolutely astonishing. And like full credit goes to the Alberta Golden Bears. I won't make that mistake again Terry. And they dominated. And not to mention, like you could argue that they had the tougher draw coming through, having to play Queens in the first round, having to play Calgary in the second round, right? So hats off to Alberta. They played fantastic. MVP goes to Ottawa boy Jordan Cannon. A good, like I would be remiss if I didn't, you know, give a big shout out to the Ottawa Mavericks Volleyball Club right now for producing another top talent in that one. And I mean, I was a little sad I wasn't there. Winnipeg is actually my hometown. I was there last year when they shut down nationals, like literally the night before. I was like at the championship, so it was a little sad I couldn't go, but I had a great time watching it on CBC all weekend.
I had a great time watching it from the States. It was electric, and the upset of Alberta. I mean, we have to call it an upset. That's just what this was. This was Trinity Western's championship to lose. And credit to Alberta, like Everett said, they came out and they took it to them. Set scores 25-22. Alberta took the first, then Trinity Western 25-12. A complete beatdown in the second. But I really think it turned in that third set, 26-24. And Trinity Western playing from behind pretty much the entire time. Serving on 23-24, Brody Hofer rips an ace to tie it at 24 all. Then Hofer at the service line again. He had 6 aces, by the way. He was unbelievable. Either forced an overpass or put him out of system and they got a free ball. I can't remember which. And Jesse Elser hits the ball out of bounds to go down 25-24 and to take their best server off the service line. Then Canham promptly rips an ace off Matthias Elser to win the set.
Canham was so good.
He was so good. He was incredible. But that was the turning point for me. Was that third set where Trinity Western came back. They had their best server at the line on a roll, and they hit a ball out of bounds on a free ball opportunity that may have cost them the match. Dan, any takes on this from you? I'm looking at the stat sheet. I don't know if you've got any numbers in front of you, but being a numbers guy, what jumps out to you from at least the championship match?
So there's a couple of things that I want to get into first. I mean, yeah, like you guys, I'm very surprised by this result, especially like talking to people since the couple of days that this happened. I mean, you talk to your average volleyball fan, the guys they know, Jackson Howe, Brody Hofer, Derek Epp, guys who'll be on the Canadian national team, very likely playing pro in Europe in the near future. But Everett, I want to ask you, like Jordan Canham, that's a name that probably not every volleyball fan knows, who obviously is leapt into the conversation recently. What can you tell us about him?
Well, I mean, Jordan Canham and just the Golden Bears in general, they don't have the flashiness on Instagram and TikTok and whatnot that, they don't have the social media presence that Trinity Western and someone like Brody Hofer or Jackson Howe does. But I mean, Jordan Canham is a guy who I mentioned before, Ottawa boy. He played for the junior national team, and he's been the guy for a while. Also, if you remember from some of my Canham videos, he's also the guy that crushed my camera in one of those matches. So you'll have to go through and find that one. But like, I mean, I think I said it last show too. I remember seeing Jordan Canham for the first time playing for Frank Saint Denis on the Ottawa Mavericks at provincials as a 17U, and this dude was just crushing balls in the shoulders on him. I mean, he's a bit of a shorter stature. I think he's about 6'5", but he's got the big long wingspan on him, and he just crushes balls. He's a good all-around volleyball player. He's played a little bit of each as well, and he was a bit of a reckless weapon, especially earlier in his career, but man, he's really brought things together. I mean, 17 for 30 in this final here, 22 points overall, two aces over 7 airs. Like he just played great. I mean, I don't know, like I would love to say that he has a future on the right side in Canada, but let's be honest, we're getting real deep there with Shawan and Sclater and Xander Ketrazinski and, the list, like Matt Neves, who plays for UBC, and, his injury ultimately led to their downfall. Like there's so much talent there, but he's 100%, a guy who's going to be going to play pro one day and probably succeed somewhere.
17 for 30, 3 aces, 7 errors, and then 2 blocks total. That is a heck of a stat line, a championship match. Elsewhere around that tournament, Sherbrooke, big Cinderella story there, coming out of RCQ. Yeah, round of applause.
Yeah, big round of applause
all the way to third. That was a pleasant surprise, and then the unpleasant surprise of the OUA's performance. Ontario, all 3 teams losing in the first round. You two Canadian boys, any takes on those 2 provincial representations?
So I can't say as much as Everett, but like I was at Western when they had that great team for people who are very into the niche OUA volleyball knowledge, but with Garrett May and Phil James and Sean McKay and all those guys. We came close many times, but traditionally, I have to say, it always felt like as a player and fan in the OUA, like you're always up against like insurmountable odds. Like there's always that one team. There's always an Alberta or a Trinity Western that was always going to beat you in the end, even if we did make the finals a few times. But I mean, as good as Ontario is at volleyball, I think ultimately like the programs at West are just a little bit stronger.
Yeah, I don't disagree there. Ultimately, it was a terrible weekend, not just in the men's, but the women's as well. Everyone's losing in the first round. I mean, I think it's also tough as well for being an OUA school because they weren't deemed, OUA athletics in general weren't deemed elite when it came to lockdown. So they had to had to lock down, kind of heading into Christmas. And for a month after that, where they weren't they couldn't train, they couldn't compete, so they had to play catch up with everyone else, right? Even last year, where there was lockdowns where they couldn't train, whereas there was no leagues going on, but Trinity and Alberta and other Canada West schools, like they were still able to train all throughout the year. I think that you're seeing that a lot of the top tier, like Ontario was finding a lot of success in years past by keeping keeping Ontario guys in Ontario. And I mean, we mentioned Isaac Kislinga. That's a guy out of the Aurora Storm, volleyball club just north of here in Toronto, and he's going out west and playing for the Golden Bears. I mean, I understand why. They're one of the if not the most storied program in Canadian volleyball, right? So a bit of a swing and miss for the OUA in general, but I mean, I was surprised, and let's be honest, it was tough. If you look at Toronto, for example, maybe that quarterfinal goes different if their team all Canadian setters, Zane Grossinger, doesn't makes the trip and doesn't have COVID. Right. Like, I think that's a huge kind of asterisk to put on, for the Toronto Varsity Blues. I think McMaster just came out flat against Calgary altogether. And I mean, Queens, not what they were kind of before the pandemic. The aforementioned Zane Grossinger had moved to Toronto, losing a couple players as well. And just, they don't stack up to Alberta. But yeah, it's a tough pill to swallow for the OUA. And I'm going to be interested to see how that affects nationals heading into next year.
So any more just larger takeaways before we move on from the subject from the Trinity Western perspective? We know that Ben Josephson is moving on to the Canadian men's national team. We know that a bunch of their players are moving on to the next level. Probably a lot of those guys will go play pro, but what's in your guys' opinion, just from inside the Canadian borders, what's the legacy of this Trinity Western program given this less than perfect, like not the storybook ending they were looking for?
So for me, it honestly, it can kind of like really puts a damper on the whole Trinity Western legacy / mythology. Like, given the reputation they had and, all the YouTube videos, everyone in Canada talking about how they would crush any D1 team that's come the past like 5 years at the US. I think now that they've come and put this performance up, granted, I think all of them will be good pros. I think like Brody Hofer, Jackson, I think all these guys will be on the national team or at least quite successful careers on Europe. I think it's one of the better teams that we've seen. But like at the same time, you can't have this and then lose the Canadian national championships like that. To me, that completely ruins like the whole mythology of it, which is too bad because it was, it's exciting, especially for younger fans, guys still in high school, probably watching all these YouTube highlights and really getting into the team. But, they're still going to be fine. It's just kind of an unfortunate ending.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's still like, the reality is, as I said before, I think Trinity Western is just a bit more of a glitzy program in terms of their presence on social media. But like other than UBC doing it in 2017, and Laval doing it in 2013, the only two teams to win national championships of the past decade has been Alberta and Trinity Western. Like this is Bama against Clemson, right? Like it's not like we're necessarily talking about like even a McMaster or a Calgary coming in and upsetting them. We're talking about one of the premier programs. And I mean, like Terry Daniluk and Brock Daviduk and the program that they've built there at Alberta is renowned internationally. You talk to American guys like Al Skates and Marv Dunphy, and I'm sure they're going to tell you so much about how much they respect this program. So I definitely do think that it would have been a better story sending off Ben Josephson the way they did. You can argue that they got robbed twice in a row because they got robbed in 2020 with the shutdown of pandemic and Eric Lepke's last year. But hey, I still think I still think there's I don't think it's that big of a deal and moving forward. But I mean, I think it's going to be interesting because this is the end of the Ben Josephson era, arguably one of the most dominant eras in Canadian uSports volleyball history. And now it's going to be up to Adam Schreimer and Ben Ball, two former setters of the program, to kind of take the reins and move forward. And I mean, hey, with the young talent that Alberta has and teams like UBC and stuff like that, no shot to those two guys. But I think Ben Josephson just means so much to that program and brings so much that I think we're definitely going to see a bit of a leveling out of the playing field here. And I mean, as I said, they lose some guys. I think Alberta loses some guys too, but I think they're going to good position to kind of go on another run like they have in the past.
I'm a little more with Dan than I am with you, Everett. I think that Trinity Western losing this championship match is hurts their legacy significantly, especially given all the hype and the media and just the star power and their play style and just everything about it. Not being able to get it done on this stage is a painful way to end an era, and it sucks, but that's what sports is sometimes. And I want to throw out some numbers to you guys before we move on. So Brody Hofer, 16 for 28, attacking, unbelievable. 6 aces, only 2 errors, unbelievable. Jordan Schnitzer, 20 attempts, second on the team in attempts from the middle. And I know he hits left side in that one rotation, but 14 for 20 with 2 errors. He was tremendous. Jackson Howe, 8 for 10. Derek Epp, 4 for 4 in like setter dumps and attacking occasionally. How do you lose a match with those numbers? Here's how. Jesse Elser, 5 for 15, 5 errors, 0% efficiency. Matthias Elser, 2 for 10, 5 errors, negative 300 efficiency, and just some real head-scratching, confusing moments. Colton Lowen as well, like trying to send over a short bump send over on the second contact late in the fourth and missing it into the top tape. Like that's a choke. There's no other way to say it. That there were some moments when Trinity Western choked in this match, and that was the difference because outside of a couple key moments and a couple key players on the floor, their numbers were outstanding. But Alberta was the more clutch, solid, and well-rounded team throughout, and they deserve to win, in my opinion.
And when are we going to get like the uSports versus NCAA winners face?
Oh, dude, we talked about it last week. It would be so sick. But like now I don't know if I even want to see. I don't know if I care about seeing Alberta play against like whoever ends up winning.
Yeah.
Well, NCAA this year is wide open as it's ever been, and I don't think there's any one team that's really all that good. But it would have been more fun had it been Trinity Western for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, like, hey, let's not forget that Alberta was also, dummying the American teams back in 2019 at the Can-Am Holiday Classic. So
Everett, you've got to get off your high horse about this Can-Am tournament, dude. It's
but like that. I'm just saying that,
like, and we're not, and it's your
no,
volleyball,
but that's
not ours.
That's not what I'm saying at all. It's just more so that like you wouldn't want to see Alberta play against NCAA teams. I mean.
You might in the month of May versus the month of December. I think that's a big difference, and I hope.
No, absolutely. I'm not even talking about that, but I'm just saying that like they can be just as dominant as Trinity Western.
Yeah, but Rob, those games are on YouTube, so that's really what all that matters.
Yeah, exactly.
I loved that tournament. Trust me, I was all about that tournament. Yeah, but if you think that that's really the true representation of the best of the NCAA, you don't know what you're watching.
Oh no, and so, I fully admit that. But yeah,
moving on real quick before we move off of uSports, Trinity Western did do one very good thing this weekend. That's win a national championship on the women's side. I don't really know anything about this, and like we talked about on last week's show, literally the only sport that uSports and the NCAA do on the same competitive level is men's volleyball. Women's, not even close. We have.
I mean, hey, let's give some respect to the. I mean, hey, you want to know the last player?
I'm not going to do that.
Like,
I'm not going to do that.
Kira Van Reich came out of uSports, right? So cool. I think that we've got some stuff there. I'm not going to say that they play at par, but I still think that they deserve respect.
A uSports women's team would never ever make the Sweet 16 in the NCAA tournament. Never. Probably not even the round of 30.
I think 7 Kira Van Reichs would probably make it.
You got to get someone to dish the ball. But hey, Bree King, former Trinity Western Spartan as well. Hillary Howe, she was a Trinity Western Spartan as well. I'm just saying that, we like to spread our talent.
If there's one team that could do it, though, it's probably Trinity Western most years.
And I like the recent ascendancy of the Canadian women's volleyball program. I love they're playing VNL. But you guys got to remember there are levels to this, okay? You do not compete with the USA in college women's volleyball or at least recently in international women's volleyball. Different levels, but congratulations.
Hey Rob, Carleton men's basketball.
Oh, there we go. we
could probably win one match, maybe.
Yeah, we could win a first round match.
Yeah,
I mean, you know who we wouldn't lose to is St. Peter's.
Everett, I swear.
St. Peter's.
I'm cutting this show.
Rob's like, why on earth did I ever invite 2 Canadians to this show? This is the worst mistake of my entire life.
I hate you both so much.
All right, back on topic. Let's go.
Back to volleyball. God, I hate you guys. All right, so it's the Lega Volley Femminile, jumping across the pond to Italy. A lot going on in this league. A couple weeks ago, we did a similar segment talking about the men's league because there's only one game left, and there's really now just pretty much one day of competition to decide playoff spots and relegation and all that. And we've got the same thing in the women's league right now. So let's look at the standings actually first. A couple key differences. There are 14 teams in the women's league in Italy, whereas there are 13 men's teams. So each team on the women's side plays 26 matches, while the men played 24. But still, there's 8 teams that make the playoffs and 2 teams that get relegated. And as you see now recently, we have a new leader in the clubhouse. Conegliano has overtaken Novara as of very recently for first place in the league. They did so by these couple recent results. Novara last Wednesday were able to beat Chieri, who's pretty good, but they beat him in 5. So they only got 2 points out of that. And really the only reason why they won the match at all is because Britt Herbots came off the bench and was absolutely unbelievable. But Novara didn't play their best there. Then Conegliano turns around and beats the same Chieri team in 4, getting 4 full points. And Novara gets swept by Scandici, which was enormous. Novara had their own destiny in their hands. If they had won out, they would have gotten the number 1 overall seed in the playoffs. But now it is Conegliano in the driver's seat. Big choke. Next match is coming up, just to set the stage for all this discussion. Novara has a makeup match with Perugia on Thursday. That's an easy win for 3 points, I would think. But then that last day, this coming Sunday, April 2nd, is doomsday for relegation position teams. And if Conegliano can beat Bergamo and get 3 points out of that, the number 1 seed in the playoffs is theirs. They right now, if Conegliano and Novara tied in points, Conegliano has the tiebreaker in set ratio. So let's start with Novara, gentlemen. Novara versus Scandici. Did you follow this match? Do you have any thoughts? And is this kind of a choke by Novara?
Absolutely, it's a choke. You have the opportunity to go in and secure your chance to be number 1. Like you got to get it done. Like that's a massive match. And I mean, like Scandici would have been their potential, semifinal. Like right now, had they been in first and Scandici finishes right now where they are in 4th, like that's the semifinals right there. And like Scandici's a good team, but getting swept, like you're not even gonna fight against them. Like, man, yeah, that's a choke for sure.
I don't know. I mean, if you were looking at these two teams, I guess 3-0 is obviously not the result you want. But looking at these two teams, just the talent and like where we put them at the beginning of the season, I don't think Scandici's that far behind Novara. I mean, if you're just strictly looking in terms of the talent on the court, obviously Novara's played better, had a great season, but I don't know. Scandici, I think, is still like one of the best teams in the league.
I mean, I don't disagree with that at all, but I think it was their time to shine, and they needed to get it done, right? It doesn't matter if you're winning games in January and February. You need to be winning games in like March, April, and May, right? So when it comes to gut check time, they're not getting the job done, and that to me is a bit of a choke.
So a couple numbers from that particular match. Britt Herbots got the start. Went 3 for 13 attacking with 2 errors, so much less of the magic that she had the previous match. Caterina Bassetti, not good at all, eventually benched in the 3rd, 4 for 13, 6 errors, negative efficiency. Both the middles were perfectly good. Abrar Karakurt, 12 for 37 with 6 errors. That efficiency is pretty low, so really just the entire Novara offense, not all that good, and only 2 blocks as a team. Haley Washington had 2. That was it for Novara as a team. I was surprised by that. Scandici, quite conversely, 7
Dominant.
blocks as a 7 blocks as a team, just significantly better attacking. Lena Pietrini, pretty good, 10 for 22. Natalia Pereira, 9 for 22. Ekaterina Antropova, not as good, 9 for 30 with 5 errors. But and Brenda Castillo deserves a lot of credit at the libero spot for Scandici. They played significantly better than Novara that day.
Yeah, but Antropova, I mean, she wasn't great offensively, but she got 4 aces to only 3 errors, right? So it led the match in scoring with 14 points. So the young Russian/Italian, we've yet to be determined, is looking good. And I mean, like everyone thought that Luisa Lip was going to be, the driving force there on the right side for Scandici after losing Stesiak last year, and I can see why those two countries are fighting over Antropova. We've talked about her before, but she looks damn good. So yeah, four aces is nothing to put your nose up at from the young one.
Right. So Scandici, by virtue of that win, has locked themselves in at 4th. They will be the 4 seed guaranteed. I think that Monza mathematically will be the 3 seed. I don't think that they can catch Novara. Well, it depends. If Novara goes winless in Monza, that would be shocking. If Novara lost to Perugia, I'm just going to assume that Novara is not going to lose to Perugia. But it's looking like Monza is going to take 3rd. Busto Arsizio will take 5th for sure. That's an interesting story there with their setter situation.
Yeah. They're really limping into the playoffs without Jordan Poulter, right? So
very much so.
Like, I know you and I were really hyping up a potential first round matchup between Scandici and Busto, and that's a matchup that I love to watch. Of course, Alexa Gray has been having another career year for them, and is actually kind of rumored maybe go to Canigliano next year or Navarro. So like moving up in those standings. But yeah, without Jordan Poulter, the setter of the American women's national team, I don't know if they have much against a Gandici team that looks pretty good right now.
They're trying to work through the process to get Dijkema, the Dutch setter, in from Lokomotiv Kaliningrad, I think. But that paperwork is not going all that fast, and they've got a deadline on Sunday. And if the transfer is not done by then, she can't play. So that's what they're trying to do to get their setter position solved. But I don't know if they're going to be able to pull it off just yet. Just to finish out the top 8, Chieri 6th, Firenze 7th, Cuneo 8th. Like those 3 could still move around just a little bit, but there is a massive, massive drop off from 8th, Cuneo with 36 points, to Vallafolia 9th with 21. That is a crazy separation from the 2 like distinct tiers in the league,
which has made this kind of end of the season a little bit anticlimactic. I mean, there's the playoff race, but then when the playoff race is actually like done, weeks before the season ends, not as fun.
The playoff race is pretty much done, but it's not done? The relegation race. And this is even more ridiculous than it was on the men's side. There are 6 teams separated by 4 points. And I mean, I guess even Roma, who has 17 points, they still have 2 matches left to play. So by the time they play Vallafolia on Wednesday, by the time we get to Sunday, literally all 6 of those teams could be alive to get relegated, which is absolutely crazy. So here is this weekend's schedule. Bergamo plays Conegliano. That's probably an L. Casalmaggiore Perugia could go either way. Novara plays Chieri. Novara needs that win. Chieri kind of doesn't. Busto plays Cuneo. That doesn't really matter. Scandicci plays Firenze. Honestly, that doesn't really matter. Both those are playoff teams. Trentino plays Monza. You've got to assume that Monza's going to win that one. And then Vallafolia playing Roma twice in 4 days.
All right.
That last one is a big one.
Rob, you've been commentating all these matches. Give us right now who's getting relegated.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
All I know about these lower teams in Italy are the teams that I have commentated.
For sure,
man. I haven't commentated Trentino, but from what I know about them, I am not particularly high on their team. I think they're and mathematically too, they're the most likely to get relegated right now. I mean, they have 1 match left to play. They have only 19 points. Like Roma, I think still has at least a little bit of a chance. They have 2 matches left. They have Maddie Buggs, setter from Stanford, who I really like. Roma's had good stretches this year, but lately they've lost their last 5 matches in a row, so that's pretty brutal. But they still have very much a chance to not get relegated because they have 2 matches left. My picks right now, probably Trentino and Perugia, if I had to pick right now. I think Perugia is going to get smoked by Novara on Thursday, and they'll be like kind of limping into that last weekend with a match that they might have to win, and I just don't know. But again, this mathematically could go so many different ways. I think Bergamo is by no means safe because they're at 20 points, and they have to play Conegliano this weekend, so that could be a relegation too. I just don't know. It's going to be pretty spicy.
Yeah, really looks like it could go anyway. Sorry, Ever, go.
No. I was just going to say, I think Rob almost gets more excited by relegation races than he does about playoff races because he goes deep into the relegation round.
What's there to get excited about this playoff race? Dan said it. Like, look, there's 15 points separating 8th from 9th. Like, I can't get excited.
Also, guys, for us North American sports fans, for everyone listening and watching to this right now, like, this is actually like makes this time of year very exciting. Like, I'm an NBA fan right now, and there is I don't care. There's nothing. Like, it's a couple of playoff races
to watch right now.
Enough Trump. The relegation makes this kind of part of the season so exciting. Like, bro, you're gonna be watching. Like, it's gonna be literally every hour on Sunday changing. Like, what's gonna happen? Right. Like, who's gonna get relegated?
I love that.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. I love it too. It's another dynamic element. I mean, there's disadvantages to it too, mainly for sponsors and for owners and stuff. But whatever, we're fans. We don't care about that. For fans, this is exciting. This is great.
Exactly. Yeah, like it takes the idea of tanking completely out of the equation. Not like there's no benefit to do that in European sports, but like if you don't want to get relegated, you just play better. You just got to win some games. And the fact that there's two teams getting relegated on both sides in Italy this year makes it even more fun. So also, I'm excited to follow this.
I love how Perugia and Trentino are the two relegated teams. Like, come on, guys, show a level of quality here. Give some investment to your women's teams as well.
You have great men's programs. Come on.
Well, I mean, I was just thinking we probably gonna have some stooge who's gonna sign on just for that. Be like, what do you mean Trentino and Perugia getting relegated? The best in the league.
At least Perugia has a different logo.
Yeah, true.
Trentino doesn't. I think Trentino's logo looks the same. But same clubs. They've got to get their stuff together on the women's side, or else they might get relegated, and then that's it. So I guess, Dan, do you know, are they promoting 2 teams from A2 or just 1? Are they going?
Well, I think the golden number is 14 in each league. So I imagine they're going to. I think they'll have, like, again, there's always weird stuff that happens every year in every league. It's very much not like, I think people think there's like a rule book to all this stuff, which there is to some extent, but it really is just a decision by the board and by the owners every year. So
they'll extremely flexible.
Exactly. So I don't know for sure, but I imagine, and 14 is a good number, right? Like, I might, maybe in the future they'll expand it even more, but I think two teams come up, 2 teams come down. Makes sense to me.
Yeah, I like it. So by this time next week, we will know the 8-team playoff bracket on the women's side in Italy, and we'll know the 2 teams that are getting relegated. Speaking of 8-team Italian playoff brackets, the men kicked off their playoffs this weekend, and there were absolutely no surprises. The only team to take a set was actually Cisterna. To their credit, took a set off Perugia. Everybody else got swept. Modena, Numir played. Milano, Bartolomei Cinese did not. That was a huge turn of events. Lube looked fine against Monza. Trentino looked fine against Piacenza. Gentlemen, anything really to go for about this? There really isn't that much to talk about, honestly.
I mean, I watch. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, so you go ahead. I really have nothing to add here. I think it's business as usual here.
I mean, I watched pretty much the entire match. This is Cisterna Perugia. I was hopping around it like you guys, I'm sure, were as well. But I have to say, I'm very impressed by Cisterna because I hadn't really seen this it all come together like it did on Sunday for them this season. Granted, I think there's no chance of winning this series, so I'll preface everything with that. But I mean, the defense looked great. Michele Baranovic, like, I think set an incredible game. He had a couple like standing sets where he squeezed at the net in position 2 and just fired it across to Stephen Marr. Marr was a little quiet, but like surprisingly effective. You check his box score at the end. And one thing I think maybe if we can have a takeaway from this game towards the next rounds is that the Perugia serve was not nearly as dangerous as I've seen it be this season, which, as we know, I mean, okay, Perugia added Ginelli. That's, of course, that creates a completely different dynamic in their offense, but it's still Perugia. They're still going to rely on their serve, right? Like, that's still their ace against no pun intended, against every other team.
Good one.
Like Leon, Gianelli, Soleil, Plotnitsky coming off the bench, Anderson, Reitslicki, like all these guys, like this is a serving team because they're obviously not the best passing team. And I didn't see that from them. So, and that's one of the reasons why Cisterna was able to come in.
Yeah, real bad from the baseline this weekend. Perugia 2 for 18, 2 aces, 18 errors. Leon had no aces and 7 errors, only 13 attempts. So he made more aces than he even put into the court, right? So rough weekend for Perugia from the baseline, but yeah, they still get it done. I mean, I love watching Cisterna play. Stephen Marr, I mean, Dan's out here slandering, saying that he wasn't looking too good, and yet he's leading his team in scoring.
I said he was quiet. He was a quiet leader.
Nothing can trigger Everett like somebody not saying Stephen Marr's the best player in the world.
Oh, not even best player in the world. Let's give him, like, let's act like he is. He's a bona fide like top all-star.
Okay.
Like let's be honest. When they without Crick and Arthur Schwartz, you would have think Cisterna is gonna fall down. Kevin Tilley couldn't bring them to the playoffs last year. I mean, they would have gotten relegated if they hadn't been saved. And here Stephen Marr is putting the team on his back and bringing them to the promised land to get thumped by Leon and Perugia in the first round of the playoffs.
Well, to quote Sebastian in the chat, thanks for participating. They'll be playing in the round for 5th place, all those dumb placement matches while the real semifinals are going on. So nothing really interesting here. We were chatting on Saturday while Trentino Piacenza was going on. Recine for Piacenza did not play well at all. Trentino was clutch late. Micheletto was insane from the service line. What else is new? Lube versus Monza. Lube was just the better team. Juan Terena played fine. And then Modena, like I talked about, they had Namir, which was really the key factor for me. And Milano did not have Chinese. Yeah.
Okay, but guys, I'm going to be honest here. Lube and Monza, I was suspecting would be a lot closer than it was. I honestly thought that might be the closest match out of all of these. And like Monza, they've had some great storylines this season. Donovan Zavranek, like we discussed on last week's podcast, like he was looking really great this season. I've never been a fan of Orduna, but he's playing all right as well. Grosjean, like I would say Monza, like that. It was not even close. That was arguably the least close match this weekend. No, so I don't know. Do you guys have an idea of why Monza was not able to do anything?
Maybe let's not talk about why Monza wasn't able to do it. Let's talk about the return of King Ivan. I mean, Ivan Zaitsev going 15 for 19, hitting 75%, only 2 errors, right? 3 aces and only 2 errors to lead Lube this one in 18 points. So like Robert Landisimoho going 6 for 6 down the middle and 3 blocks and 4 aces on 2 errors. I don't know if it has anything to do with what Monza wasn't able to do. I think it had everything to do with what Lube was able to do 2 months.
You think Lube's pissed off about how the rest of their season's gone the last month or so?
Yeah, I think so too. But I think everything is starting to come together right now. And I mean, so many people were doubting to see if Ivan Zaitsev was able to come back. And I mean, he has turned it on right now. And this Lube team, I think they're starting to wake up, and someone's going to poke the bear, and it might be good.
Well, we saw last year that they basically took their Champions League loss out on the entire Italian league.
Yeah,
and we might be in for the same thing this year, right?
Yeah, it galvanized them huge to lead them to Scudetto. So I mean, you know, Wantarena's coming back. Yant is still looking pretty good. Zaitsev's looking good. Like, hey, we could see a different Lube now.
Yeah, and one more thing before we maybe move on here, like. Guys, also another big one. Like, if Modena can serve like they did, especially like Namir and Engapet, like are they? We've kind of ridden them off this entire season. Are they a real threat to win this?
So we brought that up the other week. Like last week when we were talking about it, I really was only focused on, is Namir going to play? Because the last couple of weeks for Modena, he hadn't played, and that changed everything for them because they're not a very deep team. They're the least deep of the elite teams in Italy. So when he couldn't play, they move Leal to the right, and their whole team changes. But with Namir and with them serving really well, I had the take even before we were worried about Namir's health that Modena is actually the only team that can beat Perugia in a 5-match series. In a 5-match series, I don't think Lube can do it. I don't think Trentino can do it. There is a world where Modena could catch fire enough times and beat Perugia in a 3-out-of-5 match series. I think that world does exist. So I'm not sleeping on Modena now that it looks like they're playing at full capacity, and they took a Milano team that's good and just dismantled them from the service line, like 25-13 in the first set. Like, get out of here. That semifinal, that Perugia-Modena semifinal that we're likely to see, I think is extremely interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's especially like a serving versus serving matchup like that. Like, you know what's going to happen. It's just like whoever gets to like the 10 aces first, like essentially wins the match, and it could really be either side. It creates. Oh yeah, you're right, Rob. I have no idea who could win that, but we've seen a lot more Jekyll and Hyde from Modena than we have from Perugia this season. That's why
Modena is the only team to beat Perugia. The only team to beat Perugia this year, other than Trentino beat him in 5 when Gianelli had COVID. Modena was the only team to beat Perugia when they had their full lineup this year.
And I mean, let's be honest. Modena is bad when they bad teams, right? When they play teams that they look down on. You know, when they're playing the Piacenzas or the Tools or whoever it may be. When it comes to play, like they show up to play. I mean, I think it's one thing that like nothing's going to get like Irvin Engapeth and Bruno and Namir and you know Leal like all of these all-star guys up more than playing the bona fide number 1 team in the world, right? So like I think that's going to be a series, but man, I think we're starting to see Lube come alive here, and I don't think Trentino has the horses to run with them, so I could see like a quick series win for Lube, and they get to sit back and rest a little bit while they watch Perugia and Modena kind of beat each other up and then turn it on for the finals. I don't think we can discount Lube right now, especially with how Zaitsev is turning things on.
I think you're discounting Trentino a little too much there as well. Especially in that particular matchup, Trentino is decently well built to stop Lube in that matchup, in my opinion.
And I think you're discounting the difficulty of a series where all you have to do is go back and serve like 30 times a match, and there's no actual sided offense being played. It's just serving and acing every time.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, that's
you're not wrong.
Quite the thing to gamble on. So speaking of Monza getting kind of stomped by Lube Civitanova and how hot and cold they've been this year, segue to some CEV competition news before we move on to a couple quicker pieces of news towards the end of the show. Congratulations to Monza. They win the CEV Cup. Asterisk. Will there always be an asterisk on this tournament, gentlemen, because Zenit Kazan had to forfeit?
No, people forget.
I will.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but that's us, you know. But like they like this, you can like the same thing has happened in years past. Like Modena lost to Tools, right? And like Modena is a top flank team, and obviously shouldn't have, and you know. But hey, like they won it. Why not? Why question it? Might as well give it to them.
The reason I question it is because they played one of the legs against Zenit Kazan and got destroyed, and then only advanced because in between the two legs, all the Russian teams were kicked out of the tournament.
I feel like just because it's next to some really weird COVID stuff that's happened the last few years, it's just gonna all be kind of like thrown in the mass of the last couple of years. I agree. Probably it'll forget. Do they deserve it? Yes. I mean, you can't discount a team for winning it, but
no, they don't deserve it. They were halfway to getting sent out of the competition by a Zenit Kazan team who would have destroyed Tours in the finals. Destroyed them.
I would have liked to watch it, but you're probably not wrong. But hey, yeah, but like we can't really play that what if, right? So it's like, yeah, I agree. They would have got crushed by Zenit Kazan at home. Like it would have been probably game over. But hey, such is life, right? Like the same thing. Like what would have happened if Zenit Kazan, like all of a sudden, like Micah got injured and Bednorsh got injured, Mikhailov got injured. You know, like there's so many what if things that could have happened.
And also they won 3-0, like against a good Tours team.
It was convincing to their credit, and we talked about last week when Narbonne responded and beat Ankara at home in Challenge Cup finals in that golden set. We were like, oh man, French home crowd, like we saw what Tours did against Skra, like French home crowd, and Monza goes in and stomps them. So congratulations to them. I do want to give them credit for it, but I insist that had Zenit Kazan not forfeited, they would have won this tournament. Speaking of Italian teams in CEV, Scandici wins the CEV Challenge Cup. This was not even close. Nobody could ever argue this. They just destroyed Tenerife of Spain, of the Canary Islands in the finals. Was it like 12, 13, 15 set scores? Like it was a beatdown.
Tenerife, I'm sorry. Like great, I'm sure great club, great players, but they probably don't have any business being this far in the tournament. Yeah.
No. I mean, it just brings up that bigger conversation that we've had before, is that why is this the model? Why is this how we're running Champions League? Just because this is the way soccer does it? Like, we need to change something up. We saw Guidetti come into the press and talk about how it's garbage that Vakuf Bank has to travel to Finland and crush teams. And I mean, it's the same thing. Like, this is kind of like, if anything, it hinders Scandici's season. Yes, they win the CEV Cup and there's all of that stuff, but having to fly to the Canary Islands at some point to play a nothing match, like, yeah.
Or at least like make sure they have vacation after, so they can like spend a couple weeks to Canary Islands.
I mean,
no, Dan, that would be thinking of the athletes. We could never do that.
Yeah, definitely not.
Oh, hey, and the media guys, because the media would get to hang out there too.
Ooh, yeah. I'll take a trip to the Canary Islands to cover the Challenge Cup.
Yeah, for sure. Exactly. Send us CEV.
Sure. So congrats to Scandici. This was never in doubt. They're way too good for that particular competition. That sets the CEV stage for the Champions League. We're getting down to business here, gentlemen. Conegliano is already in the finals on the women's side, so that leaves us only 3 semifinals. All of them are kicking off this week. We've got both men's semis tomorrow. That's Wednesday, March 30th. JW against Saksa, all Polish. That is, I believe, 2 p.m. Eastern. Perugia versus Trentino, all Italian men's semifinal. That's 2:30 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday. And then the all Turkish women's semifinal, Vakıfbank for Fenerbahce. I'll have to do the time zone math, but that one is on Thursday, March 31st. I love that all of these are in country. I hate that that the Polish game and the Italian game are going on at the same time. Let's open this one up. Let's start with the all Polish matchup. What do we think about this?
All right, so actually, I'll give you a little preview here, guys, because I talked to Efe Bayram, a player on Halkbank Ankara. If you got a Turkish player, if you guys know him, he gave me a little insight into this match. I'll have the podcast up tomorrow, but he's going with Jastrzębski Węgiel as
really?
the winners not only of this match but of Champions League overall.
Really?
Yeah.
What?
Come on.
Well, if you don't believe me, you guys can check out the podcast tomorrow. But I mean, I kind of understand where he's coming from. I guess, Zaksa did beat them 3-0 in both their matchups so far this season, won the Polish Cup and one earlier on in the season. But I don't know. There's something about the way Jastrzębski has been playing recently. Trevor Clevenot has been great. And as we know, potentially Yuri Glader, which we know is last year was such a huge part of the team, potentially coming back maybe on the first match, but potentially the second match. I don't know. I feel like Jastrzębski is like they're built for this like time of the season. I feel like last year they ramped it up around this time, and I feel like this year it's going to be the same thing.
Everett, who's your pick here? Are you sticking on Zaksa?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely still sticking on Zaksa. I mean, I like that JW team. I think they're good. Yeah, you have Toniutti. Yeah, you have Hadrava, who has been killing it of late. The addition of potentially Yuri Glader is a big one, and I really do like Yuri Glader. But I still think that this is Zaksa, right? I do find it interesting that the betting odds makers have actually marked down Zaksa as the underdogs. So that should be interesting, but it's still a team that won last year. They still have quality players. Like they still have Semeniuk, they still have Slivka. This is still a very good team.
But they don't have Toniutti.
Right, and JW does.
I mean, hey,
I feel like the Toniutti slander, there's been a lot this year, and I'm tired of it. There's one man who's been there. He's won the Olympics. He won the Super Finals.
What are people slandering Toniutti for? Because he got.
I don't know. It's probably in my own head, but I'm just angry.
So let's go position by position here. Setter Toniutti versus Janusz. I think that's pretty clearly Toniutti, right?
I mean, I like Janusz, but yeah, I feel like
it doesn't.
I've been reading some Polish volleyball forums, Rob. This is where I'm getting it, and some people are suggesting that Toniutti is not as good as Janusz, and that's insane.
So, that's insane.
But that's the crazy Poles who are going. They're going to go with the Polish guy before they go with the French.
But I hate when there's like a player like Janusz who's so underrated, but then he just gets super overrated really fast, and you're like, no, I actually like this guy, but now I have to like kind of disparage him a bit because he's growing too big too fast. You know what I mean?
I get where you're coming from there.
Okay.
Okay. How about outside hitters? Semeniuk and Slivka versus Fornal and Clevenot.
Zaksa,
but you're a little too confident on that one, Everett.
Yeah, I agree.
Clevenot was arguably the best player at the Olympics just this summer.
That's not arguable. It went Jean Patry, then Irvin Ngapeth in that order.
Ooh, okay.
Well, in the world of Dan Manili, he was
Dan,
up there.
you've always been way higher on Clevenot than I ever have been.
Guilty as charged.
I give him huge credit for that Olympic performance, but I am with Everett here that Semeniuk and Slivka are a better duo than Fornal and Clevenot, and I really like Tomasz Fornal a lot.
I mean, Dan thinks Clevenot is better than Ishikawa and Nishida combined. So
he's probably about the same height as both of them combined.
Down the middle for JW though. Oh, first of all, and like it's not even a question on the opposite. It's 100% Kaczmarek and Zaksa. Like yes, I love Hadrava, but like I love Kaczmarek, and people know that. But down the middle, who's JW's other middle?
His name is Masira, is the backup.
Who had a very nice match in the quarterfinals.
He did, yeah. He was really good both those games against Lube, and then Wisniewski is the other starting middle usually against Huber and David
Everett, your Polish national team starter.
Wisniewski.
That was one of the most ridiculous things we've ever heard, Everett.
Whatever. But still, Wisniewski and Glader, like that's a good matchup, and especially against like Huber and David Smith, like I think JW actually takes it down the middle.
If Glader plays, I might agree.
Yeah.
I mean,
And then libero Shoji versus Popivchak. That's a toss up, dude. Popivchak's really good.
No, I like Shoji better.
Yeah,
I like
me
Shoji
too.
better. Popivchak is good, but he's not Shoji.
I
Especially in
agree.
reception.
I love Eric Shoji. He's my personal favorite libero in the world, but I wanted to give Popivchak credit because probably not a lot of people have heard of him because he's playing behind usually Zatorsky and what's the other guy's name? Wojciech.
He might be the libero whose like reputation is most misaligned with his talent level, because he's really like one of the top 10, 15 guys at the libero position in the world, but he's you never hear a fan outside of Poland talk about it.
No.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, but that's because we've been living in a Zatorsky world for so long in Poland, right? So that
and for good reason.
And yeah, absolutely for good reason.
And then when Zatorsky's on it, yeah, like Rob said, Wojciech, and then
yeah, I mean, hey, I no matter what, I'm going with Shoji, and not because he potentially watches this show, and I'd love for him to come on as a guest one day, right? So, yeah, 100% sent. But yeah, I mean, I still go with Zaxa. Like, I think they just have it more. And yeah, I think they're going to be able to pull it together.
So Dan, are you rolling with FA Bayram and picking JW, or are you sticking with Zaxa? What's your pick?
I have to go with my boy Efe. Like I can't, and also I just have the memory of last year's PlusLiga finals. I watched every game so intently. I know these are different teams, but like I just can't pick against the Strebshi again. I can't after that. After I was like rooting so hard for Zaxa for the Triple Crown. But at the same time, I remember like I talked to all those guys at the super finals on Zaxa, and like a lot of the same guys that are playing this year, and they remember that. Like they have really have some, not bad blood because they're like friendly, but like this is the revenge game, right? Like they have something to prove here. They were so mad when Yastrebski ruined their Triple Crown, because that would have been one of the most amazing accomplishments in like volleyball history. They would have gone down like in the records book is a absolutely legendary team, and they still were, but like not nearly to the same extent.
I'm glad you brought that up. I don't think we have covered that enough. And Dan, you're absolutely right. How big of a deal it was for Zaxa to win Champions League, and then how big of a deal it was for them to lose in the Polish finals to Jastrzębski. That is a big deal. And those guys that are still there on either team, and then Tony Uti in particular being in the middle of it, those guys remember that for sure.
Yeah, it's a really interesting interpersonal dynamics between these teams behind the scenes.
And like we'll get to in a minute, the top of the Polish, the PlusLiga standings have gotten really interesting. But let's move on to the other men's semifinal, Perugia versus Trentino. I want to set the stage for this by saying that they will play for the 7th and 8th time this season alone in this semifinal 2-match series. It is insane. They were in the same pool in the Champions League 4th round. Perugia beat them twice. Perugia leads the season series so far 4-2. The only 2 that they've lost or won, they lost in 5 when Gianelli got COVID the morning of the match, and then the other one was in the Super Cup finals back in the beginning of the year. Do you see Trentino as having a chance to advance here, or can we just write in Perugia to the finals?
Let's just write into the Perugia to the finals. Honestly, like as you said, those 2 wins for Trentino were early in the season. I think Trentino kind of surprised some teams. You had a bunch of guys in a style of playing that no one really had tape on, but I think this Perugia team is just too locked in and too good, honestly, for this Trentino team. I think they're having a great season. But
locked in that they lost a set to Cisterna, who is a lot worse than Trentino, for being honest.
Yeah, but like I don't know. I don't like losing a set and losing a match are 2 very different things. You know, like something can happen in a set, right? Stephen Mark can go on a serving run and you're done. Sorry, I'm going to stop now.
That is not what happened.
I know it's not. I know it's not what happened. But I'm just saying here, right? Is that like I really don't see it. Yeah, that's all I have to say. And I think to be perfectly honest, I think it's the same thing with Vakofenk and Fenerbahce. I think in both cases, you've got 2 very strong teams who are kind of in that 3rd, 4th spot in the league and have young athletes who are leading them. Fenerbahce and Federic Seva. But they're going up against, the bona fide best teams in their league. And I don't think either of them have much of a chance.
That one I don't agree with at all. And we'll get to that in a second. Dan, what do you think about the Italian men's semi?
Well, and definitely, I think I'm in agreement, like, except for like horrendously bad serving performance by Perugia. I think they definitely have it. And I think one thing I have to keep in mind is that these domestic matchups, I think general casual fans have no idea how many dozens and dozens and dozens of hours that the scouts for each team are spending, looking at the footage, looking at the opposing hitting patterns, looking at the tendencies, especially with a team like Perugia versus Trentino, like you guys mentioned, playing each other 8 times. Those tendencies are absolutely drilled into these players. And for me, that kind of matchup always favors the better team. When both teams are equally prepared, when there's no surprises, that's going to favor the better team. So I met with Everett on both of these. I think Perugia and Vakif for those scouting reasons are probably favored in both matchups.
That's a good point. Now I'll transition to the Turkish women's semi, but first I picked Perugia as well. All the same reasons. I think that they're the better team, and Dan's absolutely right. When you get the more data you have, the larger the sample size is on one team against another, the more it's clear that the better team is the better team, if that makes sense. I think a couple of the key matchups, though, the better setter really starts to shine when the matchups are understood, and Gianelli's ability to separate that offense, especially against his former team and against the 2 Serbian middle blockers that he knows, will be very interesting to watch. And then middle blocker versus setter on the other side is an important matchup. So a key player for me for Perugia is whoever the second middle blocker is. We know it'll be Sebastian Solé. Is it Fabio Ricci? Is it Stefano Mengozzi? It's been Mengozzi really throughout the last half of the season. He's been pretty good.
You're gonna sit here and tell me that the second middle is more important than Wilfredo Leon?
Of course, no. No, but in terms of the matchup, listen what I'm talking about here. If Mengozzi is out, if Mengozzi or Ricci are out there as a significant tiers below the other 3 middle blockers in this matchup, and Pedrashin and Lisinac and Solé, if that 4th middle blocker, whoever it is for Perugia, is getting just destroyed, if Spertoli's steps and steps ahead of them and there are one-on-ones everywhere, then I think Trentino has a little bit of a chance if they can not get aced 15 times. But if that other middle blocker does his job, and he doesn't have to be a superstar, but if he does his job, I think that makes the Perugia advantages even a little stronger.
Honestly, Rob, I've been a big fan of Mengozzi for a while. I've mentioned it on the FiveOne podcast a bunch of times. But he was good in Ravenna, and he was good in Valencia the year before. A guy who's he's taking the contracts on lower teams, older guy, but he's pretty bouncy. For the fact that he's a 250-pound, 6'11", 34-year-old. He's got good athleticism for those specs, and a guy who really knows how to play and clearly accepts his role, is gonna hustle hard on the block, even if he's getting one set per set, I guess. And I think he should be the starter. And I think that's my
I don't disagree with that at all. But at the end of the day, Perugia is going to live and die with how well Wilfredo Leon does, and all those little battles around it. It's going to matter up to a certain point. But it's like we see in the NBA. If LeBron's going to want to go off for 40 some or whatever it may be, it doesn't really matter what the matchups are on the other side.
Yep, you've got the best player in the world, and if he plays like the best player in the world, in particular from the service line, I think it's a wrap, and I think Perugia goes to the finals. Moving on to the Turkish women's semi, Vakıfbank versus Fenerbahçe. I'm surprised that you guys are so just so convinced that Fenerbahçe doesn't really have a chance here. That just Vakıfbank's going to go through, and that'll be that. I actually kind of want to pick Fenerbahçe.
Why? For what reason?
Tell us.
Yeah.
So
other than to grind our gears here.
No, I don't make picks to be annoying like some of you do to me sometimes. I actually believe in this. So you have Melissa Vargas, who came back from, I think it was China, either China or Japan, midway through the season. And if you watched Champions League last year, she was probably the 3rd or 4th best opposite in the tournament. She's just overshadowed by Egonu Boskovic-Hawk. But she's amazing. And then the Fenerbahçe outside hitters this year are way better than they were last year. Arina Fedorovtseva might be the best server on planet Earth. I think that's a huge difference. Maliha, the Turkish outside, really, really good. They're pretty good in the middle. I think that they can hang around. They can hang with the Vakıfbank middles. And Vakıfbank lately, I haven't been as convinced. Now you have Isabel Hawk and Gabi, who might be the best outside hitter opposite duo in women's volleyball right now. I don't know. I haven't been as convinced lately, and I think that, like Dan was saying, the amount of data and the amount of scouting that can be done here, I think Fenerbahce kind of has a chance.
And Rob, but you want to know, in my opinion, the reason why Vakif hasn't looked as good recently?
Tell me.
Because they're saving themselves for this matchup for the super finals. Because I got to spend a lot of time with Gudetti, did a podcast with him, got to talk to him at super finals. Like, I feel like they spent a bit too much energy, especially like the younger team with Gunesh and Isabel Hawk. Like they spent all their energy. They were a bit out of sorts by the super finals, by the Turkish League finals. They're a much more mature team this year, and again, another team like Zaxa that's really learned from their experience last year, that like is locked in. They know that like the end of the Turkish League is not that important to them. Whatever. It doesn't matter what seed they finish in. Like, this team is playing for the Turkish League championships, and they're playing for the super finals, and they want both. And I think they're going to get both, because I know Gudetti and Hawk, those two, they really want this.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like, not playing well in regular season games towards the end of the season, when you're already, you know you're going to be a top team regardless, it is a lot less. But this team is dialed in. Like, they've already won the Club World Championships. They've proved that they can do it. Like, they can do the treble +1, right? They can win the cup, they can win the league, they can win Champions League, and they won the club championships, right? So you want to talk about historic seasons. Like, they know not to get muddled in middle of the table games. But when it comes to Champions League, like that's when this team comes to play, right? And that's what they value, right? I would 100% say that they value this way more than they value the regular season.
That Zhezhov series worries me, though, because they lose the 1 in 5, and they actually have to really work hard to win that second 1 in 4. Like that was an extremely close series against a team who is very good in Zhezhov. They actually won the Polish Cup last week, so we'll talk about that in a minute. Congratulations to them. But there's different levels to this. Vakif should have destroyed that Zhezhov team, and they didn't. And I think that now this is kind of similar to the Caneliana versus Monza discussion that we had when we were talking about that quarterfinal, where we're like, oh, I don't know, Monza's made a lot of these moves, they've looked really good lately, and then Caneliana was able to flip the switch and just destroy them. And I think Vakif has that switch, to Dan's point. I think that Gudetti, of all people, with his and his team's experience, can find the switch and figure out how to flip it. But this Fenerbahce team is no joke, and this of all three of these semifinals, the Turkish one, to me, might have the most golden set potential, even more so than the Polish men's semi.
No, I don't think so. I'm not with you on that.
It's close. I would say Poland tight one, but yeah, definitely the Turkey more than the Italians. I would definitely agree with that.
Yeah, especially
Fedorov Sava, like we said before on this podcast. Like, serving is the biggest variance in volleyball. Like we said with Modena, like we said with Perugia, and Fedorov Sava is like, on the women's side, is probably the number one biggest variance server in a good way that they have. So, we'll see.
So, yeah, Champions League this week. Tomorrow, both men's semis, that being Wednesday, March 30th, and then Thursday, the 31st, is the All-Turkish women's semifinal. Those will be on Eurovolley.tv, and I believe they will also be on the CEV YouTube channel behind a $5 membership paywall. So that's something that the CEV is starting to play with. I'll get more info on that, like directly from the CEV. Tune into the European Volleyball Show tomorrow before the men's semis, and I'll have more answers for you about the CEV's new YouTube membership program. But there's plenty of places to watch these matches, and join the Discord if you have any more questions. So moving on, we talked about the Polish men's semifinal, and I wanted to piggyback on that by saying that Zaksa Kędzierzyn-Koźle is no longer in first place in the PlusLiga. They have been overtaken by Jastrzębski, 63 points to 61. Zaksa lately has lost some head scratchers. They lost to Lublin the other night. They lost to Skra the week before. They lost to Radom, like right after they won the Polish Cup. So out of nowhere, 3 losses, 2 of them to pretty bad teams for Zaksa. Is this concerning for you guys?
No.
No, Everett. Why do you say that? I mean,
I just think that like you're going to see this with good teams sometimes, where they're going to go through slumps, and it's like it's a long season. And there's a lot going on, and there's so much going on in the volleyball world. All the time, and that you're going to go through these slumps, and you're going to lose to bad teams, and you're going to lose to teams that you shouldn't. But at the end of the day, they know that the team that they are, and they know that the team that they can be, and I think that they're gonna step up when they need to.
But Lublin,
yeah, but that happens. Canigliano lost to, who was it, Firenze, right?
Firenze is a playoff team. They're
Yeah,
Radom and Lubin are way worse than Firenze in the Italian Women's League. You don't lose to those teams.
I mean, I just think that there's so much. Trinity Western lost to UBCO, right? Things.
They played their entire bench, and they did.
Yeah, I know, but I just think that things happen. I still have I'm standing up to what we talked about before. I think Zax is a good team, and I think they're going to continue being a good team. That's what it breaks down.
They have good players. They are a good team. I'm not that concerned. I agree, Everett, but I mean the Polish playoffs is quite competitive. Every single team here is going to be.
Yeah, I think Rejov has been having a fun year. Olsztyn is a lot of fun to watch with TJ DeFalco, Zarici Belchatov, everyone. But I still think that Zax is kind of just a notch ahead.
Well, also we don't see many upsets in the Polish playoffs. It's I feel like every year it's
except for last year's finals, I guess.
In the finals, I guess, but I mean, in the sense that it's always the last few years, it's been Zaxa Skra or Zaxa Yastrzemski, or it's usually the top teams that are playing in the finals.
Yeah, so I think this time next week, this Sunday and Monday are the last main scheduled regular season matches for Poland. Then there are a couple makeup games after that. Actually, JW and Zaxa both have to make up a couple games well after that, so that'll delay the final playoff seedings a bit. But Poland's coming down to the wire too, and yeah, those playoffs are always competitive. But Dan's right. Until you get to the finals, you usually don't see that many inferior teams winning series.
But hey, Skra looks good. They've bounced back this year for sure. After a couple of years of floundering, Savierci with Kovacevic and Conte, of course. I'm excited. I'm actually very excited for the Polish playoffs, especially because we've had such a long regular season and it's just a bit extra. And then we are in Italy. I feel like we already knew who all the teams were, who was going to win the first round. Poland's exciting. I think it's underrated as a league for playoffs.
Okay. Speaking of leagues that are underrated for playoffs, the German men's semifinals are set. This league is a lot further ahead than most in Europe. I just wanted to show this just so people know what's going on. Is there a world where Berlin does not win this championship?
No. Yeah.
I've
been very consistent with that message all night in a lot of things, but no, Berlin's so good. I mean, the fact that they lose one-off games like Friedrichshafen in the semis, the cup final, or the cup semis, whatever. I'm stuttering like I'm mad right now, but I think Frankfurt's good. Düren versus Friedrichshafen should be an entertaining series on either side. Hopefully, Blair Ban is going to be able to get in on that one. Although I'm pretty sure he's still injured. So yeah, but no, Berlin is a good team, and I mean they dominate this league, right? And then again, I said that about Trinity last week. So who knows what I know.
But usually it's Friedrichshafen obviously versus Berlin in the finals, and this year the Friedrichshafen team is not the team we're used to seeing, where it's really competitive team, and we've seen that a bunch of times this season, Champions League and in the German league. So without a strong competitor, I don't see anything being a competitor to Berlin.
I completely agree. All right, so before we move on to a couple quicker pieces of news to wrap up the show, Everett, tell the people about BetUS.
What a better time to jump on the betting game than right now. I mean, we've got, what is it? The Final Four? No, we're going to the Elite Eight of the March Madness tournament?
Final Four. Final Four is Saturday night.
We're going to the Final Four, a Purdue list Final Four.
Everett, stop it, man.
I'm sorry.
Stop attacking me personally. I won't stand for it.
I'm sorry. I'm with you on the Packers side of things. But yeah, tons of March Madness going on. We're right in the throes of all of the different playoff series. I mean, hey, if Zaxa is an underdog heading into that series against JW, I think that's a great thing to bet on right there. So if you head over to BetUS, it is America's favorite sports book. It's been around since 1994. If you follow the link just below in the description of this video and follow the link to BetUS and use the code Volley125, you will get a 125% deposit bonus when you deposit $100. That means when you deposit $100, you actually get $225. That's literally free money that you can bet on games and then take it out and bet on some more and take it out and buy your wife something nice. All right. So make sure to head over to BetUS, America's favorite sports book, and use the code Volley125 to get 125% deposit bonus.
And join the Discord where we talk about spreads and lines. And Johnny Boy in the Discord is huge on beach betting. So join a community of people who like to watch volleyball, and some people like to bet on it too. So definitely make sure you use Volley125, the promo code, so it kicks some benefits back to Volleyball Source. All right, last couple like sort of rapid fire pieces of news before we wrap up the show. First and foremost, it has been rumored, and perhaps will be announced in the very near future, that the CEV has selected Ljubljana in Slovenia to host the Champions League Super Finals. I'm kind of surprised by this, and I mean, I guess we'll get the official release maybe as soon as tomorrow. The real thing for me is how late this tournament is scheduled. Right now, the CEV has it scheduled for May 21st. That's insane. That's insane. That's like 8 full weeks between the semis and the finals. I don't understand that. But if it is, in fact, in Slovenia, that's a good volleyball country. I expect them to show up pretty nicely.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that... Sorry, Dan. You can start. You're the CEO.
I was just gonna say, well, I can't comment on anything regarding that, but I will say Ljubljana, absolutely beautiful, beautiful city. If there's one city I'm putting on my schedule next time I'm in Europe, like Ljubljana is number one. Slovenia, incredible country, great people. Like Ljubljana, I think is a city like not many of us North Americans know about, but like absolutely 10 out of 10, beautiful.
Hey, CEV, I mean, if you want to send us, we'd be happy to go. You know, we'd be happy to go. The three of us, we can get it done. But you know what? But this is the way it is every year, right? It's always a late May Champions League, which is so ridiculous. Late. Like in so soccer, late. We see it finish earlier, I think, or it's later too, but it's still like, you know, earlier compared to when the club seasons end. It's so late. You're doing it kind of less than 3 weeks before VNL starts, right? VNL starts the June 7th. This is exactly why I'm not worried about teams who kind of go through these droughts, because in volleyball we don't give our athletes an off season, right? There's no such thing as load management in volleyball, right? And you're going to be playing all year round, and that's what it is. And I mean, it's not a good thing, but that's the way it is.
Yeah, it's such a huge gap. I mean, think about Conegliano. They've known that they've been in the finals for already a week or two, and they will be long past the end of the Italian playoffs, wherever they end up finishing up, and they'll just have weeks to just sit around and think about the Champions League finals, and then turn around and in just a couple of weeks, like get in the gym with the national teams and maybe go to VNL. It's a pretty crazy turnaround. I'm surprised it's so late, but I'm excited for it no matter what. A couple other pieces of news. We talked about the surprise vacancy on the French men's national team head coaching spot, with Bernardinho sort of suddenly and very early in his career up and leaving that program. We were talking about Stefan Antiga maybe filling that spot. Everett tried to convince us into Glenn Hogue. Turns out it's Andrea Gianni, who coaches Modena, so he has a relationship with Irvin Ingapet there, and has been coaching the German men. He's jumping ship on the national team level to the French men. What are your thoughts on this, gentleman? And now we have a surprise vacancy for the German men's national team.
Well, first and foremost, Glenn Hogue was literally on a short list with, along with Gianni and Thomas Samuello of Finland and ZSP. So, like, literally, he was in the conversation. So, I mean, I didn't have to convince you of anything. I was right. But yeah, I think it's a great move for French volleyball and for Gianni, right? I know he hasn't necessarily gotten the results, like failed to qualify for the World Championships, failed to qualify for the Olympics with that German team, but everyone speaks so highly of him. And he has that experience with those top players, with Engapeth. And I mean, I kind of feel like Engapeth is a bit of a LeBron James in a way, and he wants to dictate who's going to be playing around him, you know, whether or not that's good. And I think Gianni is going to be a good one to kind of help manage the star power on that team, because hey, like no one's going to be having more eyes on them after winning the Olympics than France is, right? So they have to go with someone good, and I think Gianni is a great progressive choice for them.
Yeah, I have to agree with Everett. Like with the French national team and like with Ingrid and all the rest of them, you can't have someone who's going to like be a top down guy who's going to dictate everything, who's going to micromanage the rotations, who's going to micromanage the strategy. And then you have Gianni, who's hanging out outside the arena. Like I was there with him, your 2 Euro volleys, sitting out there, smoking a cigarette with his assistant coaches, like hanging out, like sitting on the railings, like he's a 25-year-old. Like he's a really like cool guy, like very, very, very chill guy. Like an excellent coach despite all the exterior. But I think in a way he's like kind of like actually like now when I read that I was like, oh man, he's the perfect like candidate for this French team because he's going to just like fit in culturally so well with the team.
Friendly reminder that France is hosting the 2024 Olympic Games, and you would have to think that he will be tasked with organizing a title defense for the Frenchmen. So that could be very interesting. A couple other pieces of potential transfer news, I guess. Speaking of coaches, Everett brought up Tomas Somelvolo, who has stepped down from ZSP. What's going to happen to him, especially with all the chaos going on in Russia? Nobody knows. There are rumors connecting him to coach Zaksa next year, or another Polish team like maybe Warszawa. What would you guys think of that?
I think right now we're seeing just like a mass exodus of people out from Russia. So Samuel Vigbio is one of them. Bednorsh is another guy who's being rumored to go to both Monza and Piacenza, right? So I think that we're just seeing all of those chips falls, and I doubt we're going to be seeing any foreigners in Russia next year. Kind of where I think we're at that point now that regardless what happens on the political side of the spectrum, you know, teams are going to be figuring out. And let's be honest, with as many sanctions and things that are happening, like this may kill Russian volleyball in a lot of ways, right? Like Gazprom is a massive sponsor for them. Zenit is a massive sponsor for them. All of these are state-run companies, right? So what's that going to look on the landscape? And I think we're just going to see a mass exodus from all the foreigners out of the Russian league. Then they're not going to have the money, and that they're probably going to struggle for a little bit. So yeah, we're seeing that on the other side. I mean, I think another fun one too is Matt Anderson might be getting replaced by Kamil Semeniuk at Perugia, either looking ahead to Skop into Poland. So Poland could be interesting, or heading back to China, or heading back to Asia, in Japan or China.
Well, I think Samuel Vuo to Poland makes a lot of sense because he's a very aggressive coach, which makes sense why he fit in well with the Russians. I don't think that would fly in Italy or in Germany or in France. Like those guys don't put up with it nearly as much. In Poland, yeah, probably. So that definitely makes by far the most sense for me.
Yeah, like Everett brought up Anderson to Asia. Good for him. I mean, we've already talked about that. Juan Terena is probably going to do that same thing next year. We know he's leaving Italy. He's actually even said this, that he'll go and twilight his career in Asia, play a shorter season in a lower level league and make a good amount of money. Yeah, Dan, absolutely. Good for him. I mean, if I were that good and at the tail end of my career, I'd probably do the same thing. Speaking of the opposite move, somebody that's been playing in Asia that might come back, there's been talks of Mikhail Kubiak returning to play back in the PlusLiga after all this time. He's been in Asia and Japan specifically for a long time. And I'd be very curious to see what sort of a splash that would have, especially considering he's now retired from the national team.
Yeah, I mean, Zaksa rumored to be picking him up, which I think is a bit of a weird move. Someone said on the Discord that seems more of like a Skra move than a Zaksa move, and I also agree, especially since, you know, like, is he coming in to kind of play a backseat role to Slivka or I guess you have Semeniuk, but it seems weird that they're going older when they have such a young squad. So we're in the midst of the silly season right now in volleyball, and it's going to be interesting to see how everything pans out.
I think it's more of a Rasovia move than a Skra move.
I was about to say,
ooh, actually, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Dan, how many conversations have you had on the FiveOne show about Rasovia making huge splashes in transfers and then being just terribly disappointing?
Every year.
Every year,
so
dude.
jaded by it.
Every year. It's crazy. It happens every year. So if you guys see a Kubiak to Rasovia headline in the next 3 months, we'll be the first to say we told you so.
Yeah, I mean, Rasovia is like the Piacenza, right, of Poland.
Yeah, kind of. That's a good.
Spend a lot of money and not get the results.
Well, just keep your team for more than a season.
That's the real thing. That's the real thing. I can't believe that after what Zaxa did last year, that hasn't been like the blueprint that every club in the world is like, oh, wait a minute. They built continuity over 5 years. Maybe we should do that. No. Vibo Valencia overturns their entire roster, goes from like a 5th place team in the league to getting relegated. That's what you get. I mean, come on.
I mean, Piacenza needs a free fat run. That's all I'm going to leave it at.
Indeed. That man needs some playing time desperately. Maybe he'll go to Scraw. That's kind of been rumored as well. Aaron Russell. I would be about that.
And Aaron Russell and Matt Anderson pairing at Scraw.
I don't know if they'll have the foreigner space for that, but I'd certainly like to see it. That'd be fun. Be fun for me.
You're not wrong. All righty.
I think that might be a show there, boys. Anything else we want to bring up? Let me scan the YouTube chat really quick.
No, I think we're good on the YouTube chat side of things.
Well, Dan, thank you so much for joining us, my man. It's great to see you. Great to have you on another one of these shows. Tell us real quick, what's you and Everett's plan on Fridays? You guys have been doing that pretty consistently, eh?
Yeah, and it's about to get a lot more consistent. Every Friday from now on, we'll be live on Volleyball Source, this very, very YouTube channel, me and Everett, going over back and forth conversation on Fridays, going over the week in volleyball, or, whatever conversation. It doesn't even need to be that week in volleyball. It can be whatever we want. And then, it'll be on my audio feed on the FiveOne Volleyball podcast. By the way, had a great chat with, like I mentioned earlier, FiveOne. That'll be coming out tomorrow. And I'm really looking forward to this this kind of format, Everett. It's going to be sweet.
Yeah, I like it. I like our chill Friday conversations. We just sit there on my couch, kind of shoot the shit, talk about some ball, bring up some stuff. Yeah, I like it. I like the two varying formats from this show to that one. We're going to have to get Rob on another show too. Pull him away from the European volleyball show and we'll get going. But hey, I'm excited for that conversation with F.A. Barham. Also for me, I've got a podcast coming out with Madison McKibben this week too. All so right. a lot of content for you guys right now. Okay. Be thankful.
A lot of content, boys and girls. Join the Discord. The link's in the description below. That is by far the best online volleyball chat sort of community in the world ever. We've got people from literally all over the planet who are volleyball experts and really well connected in their various spheres in the world. And we just make incredible memes and make fun of Jan Hadrava all the time, or make fun of me for making fun of Jan Hadrava all the time.
That's more accurate.
It's outstanding. Can't recommend it enough. So join the Discord for all the volleyball going on this week. Enjoy Champions League, Italy, Poland, whatever it is you're watching this week. We will cover it next Tuesday on the 9x9. Thank you very much for watching.
Peace, guys.